Hello, my dear students. In this lecture, we are going to learn various methods of refrigeration. In previous lectures, we have seen Carnot refrigeration cycle, Bell-Coleman refrigeration cycle, VCR refrigeration cycle, vapor absorption refrigeration cycle. But here, we are going to learn general other methods of refrigeration. Now, one by one, let us understand the very first method of refrigeration, which is very important, is Joule-Thomson refrigeration. Joule-Thomson refrigeration. Now, this method is very much important for competitive exam point of view. Now, Joule-Thomson refrigeration functions on Joule-Thomson coefficient. Now, Joule-Thomson coefficient is represented by mu, right? Therefore, Joule-Thomson refrigeration functions on Joule-Thomson coefficient mu. Now, this Joule-Thomson coefficient is nothing but temperature, pressure, behavior of any gas due to throttling is given by Joule-Thomson coefficient, right? Whatever may be the relation between temperature and pressure after throttling is given by Joule-Thomson coefficient. Let us understand first throttling process. Now, throttling is nothing but isenthalpic process. Throttling is also called isenthalpic process. Means enthalpy is constant. Let us say here there is a throttle wall. Let us say this is a throttle wall, and here there is a high pressure fluid P1 at temperature T1, and this fluid is throttled to low pressure P2 and temperature T2. Now, during this throttling process, as per steady flow energy equation, neglecting kinetic and potential energy changes, the steady flow energy equation is H1. Here there will be a enthalpy H1, here enthalpy H2, right? H1 plus heat is equal to H2 plus work. This is steady flow energy equation, ignoring kinetic and potential energy changes for flow processes, and throttle wall is a flow process. Now, here during this throttling is very fast process, means there is no time for the heat transfer, that is heat is zero. During throttling heat is zero, and during throttling no work is done. It is not work doing or work producing or work consuming device, therefore work is zero. Therefore equation becomes H1 plus 0 is equal to H2 plus 0. Therefore H1 is equal to H2. Therefore enthalpy is constant. Therefore throttling process is also called isenthalpic process. And my dear students, during throttling pressure always decreases, and enthalpy always remains constant. That means this P1 is more than P2. This is throttling process and enthalpy is constant. And temperature, pressure, behavior due to throttling is given by Joule-Thomson coefficient. And this Joule-Thomson coefficient is given as change in temperature with respect to change in pressure at constant enthalpy. This is called Joule-Thomson coefficient. Joule-Thomson coefficient is nothing but change in temperature with respect to change in pressure keeping enthalpy constant, means throttling process. Now, therefore, this Joule-Thomson coefficient is nothing but change in temperature with respect to change in pressure for throttling process, means for constant enthalpy process, keeping enthalpy constant. And my dear students, throttling, this is very important process for competitive exam point of view. Now, from basics of thermodynamics, here I am writing some few things for throttling. Number one, for throttling process, enthalpy is always constant. For throttling process, pressure always decreases. Because of throttling, quality of steam always increases. Dryness fraction, quality means dryness fraction, which is represented by letter X, right? Quality always increases. Because of throttling, again, entropy of universe always increases. Throttling is highly irreversible process, therefore entropy of universe always increases because of throttling. And for steam, quality, that is dryness fraction, always increases because of throttling process, and pressure always drops because of throttling, and enthalpy is constant. My dear students, as quality increases, therefore density decreases. Density decreases means specific volume, which is nothing but reciprocal of density, increases. Density decreases means specific volume, which is reciprocal of density, increases. Now, because of throttling, the temperature may increase, may decrease, or may remain constant. Because of throttling, for real gases, temperature may increase, may decrease, or may remain constant. But for ideal gases, because of throttling, that is enthalpy is constant. Throttling means enthalpy is constant. Enthalpy is nothing but CPT. Enthalpy is nothing but CPT, right? As enthalpy is constant for ideal gases, Cp is always constant. Cp is constant, therefore temperature will be constant as enthalpy is constant, right? Therefore, for ideal gases, due to throttling, temperature is constant. But for real gases, due to throttling, temperature may increase, may decrease, may remain constant. And my dear students, for steam, these points are very much important. For steam, due to throttling, that is constant enthalpy process, temperature always decreases. For steam, due to throttling, temperature always decreases, because for steam, this Joule-Thomson coefficient mu, which is nothing but change in temperature with respect to change in pressure at constant enthalpy, is positive. For steam, this is positive. And if Joule-Thomson coefficient is positive, that means, my dear students, we have seen due to throttling, pressure always decreases. Means change in pressure is, that is final pressure minus initial pressure, is always negative. There, and for mu to be positive, as change in pressure is negative, therefore change in temperature must be negative. That is, final temperature minus initial temperature must be negative. That means final temperature is less than initial temperature, which means it is a cooling effect. That is, temperature is decreasing, right? Therefore, for steam, as Joule-Thomson coefficient is positive, therefore due to throttling, temperature always decreases. So all these points are very much important for throttling process. These all points come from the basics of thermodynamics topic or subject, right? Here again I am repeating, due to throttling, enthalpy is always constant, pressure always decreases, therefore quality of stream always increases, entropy always increases, entropy of universe, density always decreases, specific volume always increases. And for real gases, temperature may increase, may decrease, or may remain constant. For ideal gases, due to throttling, temperature is constant. And for steam is a real gas. For steam, due to throttling, temperature always decreases, because Joule-Thomson coefficient is positive for steam, hence temperature always decreases. So let us understand this Joule-Thomson refrigeration process. So this Joule-Thomson coefficient mu is nothing but change in temperature with respect to change in pressure at constant enthalpy process, means for throttling process. If I consider temperature on y-axis and pressure on x-axis, then this Joule-Thomson coefficient becomes dy by dx. That is slope of, we can say, temperature versus pressure diagram, right? Slope of temperature versus pressure diagram. So let us draw this temperature versus pressure diagram. If I consider temperature on y-axis, and pressure on x-axis, and let us understand this throttling process. And we have seen, due to throttling, that is for constant enthalpy, during throttling, pressure always decreases. So my dear students, the curve will come from high pressure to low pressure side. That means from right to left, the curve motion will be from right to left. Now let us say initially the pressure P1 is here, and at some enthalpy H1, which is constant. And if I throttle this gas, then initially first temperature goes on increasing, and after some point temperature goes on decreasing. This is throttling process, that is constant enthalpy process. Here enthalpy H1 is constant and curve will move from right to left, right? Now my dear students, initially let us observe here few things. Initially pressure is decreasing but temperature is increasing. Pressure is decreasing but temperature is increasing, means change in y coordinate is positive, change in x coordinate is negative, therefore slope will be negative, right? And temperature is increasing now, and slowly slope will become zero at some point. Here slope is zero. If I consider this point, at this point we can say slope is zero, right? Horizontal line means there is no change in y coordinate. At this point there is no change in y coordinate, means mu, which is nothing but change in temperature with respect to change in pressure at constant enthalpy, is zero, is called zero slope point, also called peak point here, also called peak point in the diagram. And this point is called inversion point. Very important, this point, zero slope point, is called inversion point. Inversion point means zero slope point, which is also called inflection point. Point of inflation is also called point of inflation, POI, right? In many subjects you might have seen this point of inflation. Point of inflation means the point where slope is zero. Therefore This zero slope point is also called zero slope point or peak point in the diagram, or inversion point or point of inflation. And this inversion point is a point where slope changes from negative to positive. Now later you can see here, as after inversion point towards left of inversion point, temperature is decreasing, pressure is also decreasing. Means change in y coordinate is negative, to have a change in x coordinate is also negative, negative by negative is positive, therefore Joule Thomson coefficient will be positive. As here temperature is decreasing, pressure is also decreasing, therefore Joule Thomson coefficient is positive, therefore it is positive slope region. And the maximum point or peak point is called inversion point, which is also called the point of inflation. Now let us say, if I draw again another throttling process at another enthalpy, let us say enthalpy S2 is constant, and draw the same throttling process. The same throttling process you will find like this. You will find like this at H2 is equal to constant. Now this inversion point will come here, zero slope point. Here mu is 0, means it is an inversion point, right? Again at different enthalpy, if I at different enthalpy, that is S3 is equal to constant, the inversion point will be here, right? S3 is equal to constant. At different enthalpies, if I throttle the gas, I will get different inversion points at different location. Now the locus of all these inversion points is called line of inversion. Now if I draw locus of all these inversion points, let us say if I join all these inversion points, then I will get line of inversion, right? Now this is called line of inversion. Now this line of inversion meets the temperature axis, y axis, at maximum temperature of inversion. This is maximum temperature of inversion. And my dear students, if I draw this line of inversion, let us say the line of inversion will be like this for different enthalpies, like this, right? Now can you imagine here, the refrigeration is possible only below this maximum temperature of inversion and in positive slope region, right? The refrigeration is possible only below this maximum temperature of inversion and in positive slope region. Let us understand, in positive slope region temperature is decreasing or not? In positive slope region temperature is decreasing, right? And in negative slope region temperature is increasing, and whenever temperature is decreasing, then only refrigeration is possible. Therefore this is very important statement, that whenever refrigeration, we need to do refrigeration with the help of Joule Thomson coefficient, then the refrigeration must be below maximum temperature of inversion and in positive slope region, that is Joule Thomson coefficient is positive. Now understand the effect of Joule Thomson coefficient for negative values and positive values. Let us say mu is positive, that is change in temperature with respect to change in pressure at constant enthalpy is positive, and in another column mu is negative, that is change in temperature with respect to change in pressure at constant enthalpy is negative, right? See my dear students, this is a throttling process. Because of throttling, pressure always decreases, means change in pressure is always negative. Now hence, as change in pressure is negative, for mu to be positive, change in temperature must be negative. That means final temperature minus initial temperature is negative. That means final temperature is less than initial temperature. That means temperature is decreasing. Therefore as temperature is decreasing, there is a cooling effect. There is a cooling effect and refrigeration is possible, right? Many times they are asking these values. When Joule Thomson coefficient is positive, what will happen? Temperature will decrease. Whenever Joule Thomson coefficient is negative, what will happen? See, due to throttling, pressure is always negative, change in pressure is always negative. Therefore here change in temperature must be positive. Positive by negative is negative. Therefore final temperature minus initial temperature is positive. Hence final temperature is greater than initial temperature. Hence here if mu is positive, then there will be a heating effect. Temperature is increasing means heating effect, and refrigeration is not possible. Second type of refrigeration is air refrigeration. Air refrigeration. Now adiabatic expansion of air from high pressure to low pressure always gives cooling effect. Here in air refrigeration we are using adiabatic expansion cooling effect, right? Adiabatic expansion means, if I draw PV diagram, pressure versus volume diagram, it is adiabatic process. Pressure decreases and volume increases adiabatically. P raised to gamma is equal to constant, that is 1 to 2. This is adiabatic process. And if I draw temperature versus entropy diagram, reversible, if it is a reversible adiabatic process, then heat transfer is 0 and entropy is constant. And cooling effect means at constant entropy temperature decreases, that is 1 to 2. This is isentropic or reversible adiabatic process on TS diagram. Means temperature is decreasing here, therefore this effect of decreasing temperature is used for the refrigeration. The equation of adiabatic process is T2 divided by T1 is equal to P2 divided by P1 raised to gamma minus 1 upon gamma is equal to V1 divided by V2 raised to gamma minus 1. This is the equation of adiabatic process, right? Now, my dear students, here as pressure is decreasing, therefore from the relation here T2 divided by T1 is equal to P2 divided by P1 raised to gamma minus 1 upon gamma. Therefore, final temperature T2 is equal to initial temperature T1 into P2 divided by P1 raised to gamma minus 1 upon gamma. Now, my dear students, as pressure is decreasing means P2 is less than P1. Therefore, this ratio P2 divided by P1 is less than 1. And as P2 divided by P1 is less than 1, therefore P2 divided by P1 raised to gamma minus 1 upon gamma. This will be less than 1. That means here this T2 is equal to less than 1 into T1. X is less than 1. X is less than 1. That means T2 is less than T1. T2 is less than T1. And this low temperature here is circulated around the space where refrigeration is required. And such type of refrigeration is called air refrigeration. Now, third type of refrigeration is evaporative refrigeration. Evaporative refrigeration. Refrigeration. This is the third type of refrigeration here. Now, evaporative refrigeration is nothing but evaporative refrigeration is adiabatic transfer of heat from the air to water. Here it is adiabatic transfer of heat from air to water is called evaporative refrigeration. Let us understand the concept. Let us say there is a wet surface. Let us say there is a wet surface. That means on the surface there are water molecules. These are the water molecules, right? These are the water molecules on the surface. And let us say on this surface, if a fan is kept here, let us say this is a fan, right? Because of this fan, the air will flow over the surface, wet surface. And let us say there are two persons. One person is standing behind fan and other person is standing in front of fan. Means let us say this is a left side person and here this is a right side person. Now, my dear students, whenever this air is flowing over the wet surface, this air will absorb the water molecules and will come towards right side person. And whenever this air absorbs the water molecules, the process is called evaporation and cooling effect will be produced, right? See here, whenever this air absorbs these water molecules, it is a process called evaporation, and during this evaporation there will be a sudden expansion of these water molecules and there will be a cooling effect. Means this right side person will feel cold air, right, as compared to this left side person. And why this is happening? This is because of this evaporative refrigeration. And this evaporative refrigeration is natural refrigeration. It is called natural because the air, whenever air is flowing over the wet surface, the air has tendency to absorb these water molecules and come out as a cold air. Now, the examples of evaporative refrigerations are cooling of water in ponds, rivers, and lakes is an example of evaporative refrigeration. My dear students, in summer days, generally, if you feel this, if you have farm, go in your farm and go near ponds, rivers, or lakes. In summer day, whenever air is flowing over the river or lakes, then this air you will feel as a colder air, much colder than atmospheric air, because this effect is a evaporative refrigeration. And in your room also, whenever let us say in summer days, if electricity goes, if there is a cut off of electricity, then what you do, whatever may be your floor, wash this floor with the water, right? And this floor will become wet, and now these water molecules are absorbed by the air and your room air will become much colder than atmospheric air. The effect of refrigeration is called evaporative refrigeration. Now let us understand the fourth refrigeration, that is dry ice refrigeration. Dry ice refrigeration. My dear students, you might have learned about this dry ice. Dry ice is nothing but solid carbon dioxide. solid carbon dioxide is called dry ice. And my dear students, for this solid carbon dioxide, triple point pressure is 5 atmosphere. Triple point pressure is 5 atmosphere. Now let us understand the triple point quickly. In properties of fluid, we have already learned this triple point concept. Let us revise this. Right. Triple point is nothing but triple point is a point where the substance exists in all the three phases. That is solid, liquid as well as vapor phase. Right. Now let us understand. If I draw pressure versus temperature diagram, now here this line is called sublimation line. Here this line is sublimation line, and for sublimation line, towards left of line there is a solid state, towards right of line there is a vapor state, and the process is called sublimation. Whenever solid converts into vapor or vapor converts into solid, the process is called sublimation or ebullition. Whenever solid becomes vapor, the process is sublimation, and whenever vapor becomes solid, the process is called ebullition. Now again there is another line, that is vaporization. There is another line, vaporization. This line is vaporization, right? Again there is another line, fusion line. This line is fusion line. Now my dear students, between this fusion line and sublimation line there is a solid state. Between this vaporization line and sublimation line there is a vapor state, and between this fusion line and vaporization line there is a liquid state. And whenever this sublimation line, fusion line and vaporization line meets each other, then the point is called triple point. The point is called triple point, where the substance exists in solid, liquid as well as vapor state, right? All that means substance exists in all the three phases. And for dry ice, this triple point pressure is 5 atmosphere. Let us understand this dry ice pressure versus temperature diagram. Sublimation line, vaporization line and fusion line, and this triple point pressure is a 5 atmosphere. Now whenever this dry ice is kept in 1 atmosphere, that is atmospheric pressure is 1 atmosphere. Now whenever this dry ice is kept in 1 atmosphere pressure, then see, directly this dry ice will absorb heat from the atmosphere, and directly solid becomes vapor, and the process is called sublimation. And during this process, the solid becomes vapor, means the volume is very much expanding, right? The volume of this dry ice will expand, and during this sudden expansion process there is always cooling effect. Now whenever we want to do refrigeration with the help of dry ice, take a dry ice and keep in atmospheric pressure. This dry ice will absorb heat from the atmosphere, and the space will be cooled, and this space is used as a space for refrigeration. Now the method of refrigeration is used to store food and vegetables in transport and in remote places. Whenever these foods and vegetables or foods, right, or fruits, we can say fruits, they are in transit or transport, right, in transport or in remote places, then this dry ice refrigeration is used. The fifth type of refrigeration is called thermoelectric refrigeration. Now let us understand first the concept of this thermoelectric refrigeration. Let us say we have one thermocouple, and this thermocouple is used to measure the temperature. Let us say this is a thermocouple, and this thermocouple is used for measurement of temperature. Now for measurement of temperature, the one end of thermocouple is kept at ice point. We can say this is a less temperature, right? Or cold junction, we can say it is a cold junction. Ice point is cold junction, right? Now other end is kept at the point where temperature need to be recorded. Let us say here temperature, we have to measure the temperature T, right? And this is called hot junction, right? Which is the temperature is more than ice point temperature here. Now here let us say this is a temperature T1 for ice point, temperature T2 for cold hot point. Therefore there is a temperature difference at two ends of thermocouple. There is a temperature difference which is nothing but T2 minus T1, right? And because of this temperature difference, the electromotive force is generated within this thermocouple. Electromotive force, which is also called potential difference or voltage difference, this electromotive force or potential difference is generated across the terminals of thermocouple because of this hot junction and cold junction. Means whenever two ends of thermocouple are kept at different temperature, the electromotive force will be generated in the thermocouple, and this electromotive force is related with temperature, and from this we can measure the temperature. Now my dear students, when and this effect is called Seebeck effect. This effect is called Seebeck effect. Means whenever two ends of thermocouple are kept at different temperature, the electromotive force is generated within the thermocouple. The effect is called Seebeck effect, and this Seebeck effect is used for the measurement of temperature. Now, my dear students, here I am doing exactly opposite to this Seebeck effect. Let us say this is a thermocouple, and there are two junctions of thermocouple. Now, if electromotive force or voltage difference is given as an input for this thermocouple, then this thermocouple will produce one cold junction and one hot junction, right? Now here electromotive force is the input, but for temperature measurement temperature difference was input, but here electromotive force is given as input. Now whenever electromotive force is given as an input, then we will get one cold junction and one hot junction for the thermocouple, and this cold junction is used as a refrigerated space, right? This cold junction is your refrigerated space, and this effect is called Peltier effect. This effect is called Peltier effect. That is, if electromotive force is given as an input to the thermocouple, then we will get one cold junction and one hot junction. This is called Peltier effect, and this Peltier effect is used in refrigeration. The last type of refrigeration is ice refrigeration. Ice refrigeration. Now this type of refrigeration everyone knows. Ice refrigeration means, let us say here there is one box. There is a box. In this box I will put ice cubes. In this box I will put ice cubes, right? Now, and in this box I will keep vegetables. Let us say I want to refrigerate these fruits. I want to refrigerate these fruits, or let us say water bottle or cold drinks. Let us say these are the cold drinks or water bottles, right? Now what will happen? Now whatever the air comes in contact with this ice, the temperature of air will decrease. Because of this, density of air will decrease, and this air will become heavier, and this air will go down, and whatever the air in contact with this water bottle or cold drinks or fruits, this is the temperature is high, so density is high, therefore this air is lighter, and this air will go up. Means because of this temperature difference, there will be a density difference, and because of this density variation, high density fluid will come downward and low density air will go upward, and this is called natural convection. The high density fluid will go downward and low density fluid will go upward. Such type of effect is called natural convection, right? Now this ice is kept around the space where refrigeration is required to be done, and greater than 0 degree Celsius only refrigeration is possible. Ice temperature is 0 degree Celsius, therefore greater than 0 degree Celsius refrigeration is only possible. For example, vegetables, ice creams, cold drinks in transit. Whenever vegetables or cold drinks or ice creams are we are selling in transit or in transport, then such type of refrigerations are used. Thank you, dear students. In next lecture, we will see numericals on refrigeration topic.